There we go.
We're working.
I have great news, everyone. I have really spectacular news. It's Caravan season. Let's hear it for Caravan. All right, well, I am not one to keep people waiting, so let's hit the lights and do this thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, it's our first case. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm feeling great.
This is a terrible idea. Okay, so I think we should split up.
Yeah, split up. We'll cover the ground.
Haven't you seen any horror movie ever? That's how everyone dies. What are you talking about? Friday the 13th, Cabin in the Woods, Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
All right, so you have an outline, I'll go this way. I'm gonna stay right here in this well alone.
Ghosts. You better watch out.
Hey Dalton, I've got some great volunteer opportunities for you.
So, how long you been a werewolf?
About nine years?
Nine?
Nine years?
Wow.
No, 9.
Wow.
Glad she's not here.
Hey, I got some blast teacher spots you can fill.
I think I lost her.
Hey Dalton, it's Logos time. You want to be a rec director?
Oh my goodness!
So you can help in the summer with church school, or there's eyeglass and there's eye stars, and then there's Logos. You could be a Logos table parent.
Is it like a family thing? Is any of your family?
Oh, no, just me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what happened? Zombies!
The children's director.
Are you gonna introduce me to your friend?
I'm sorry. Werewolf, this is Kentucky, and the moon.
The moon?
All right, so if you were paying attention to that masterwork of film and entertainment, we are going to Mexico. Caravan 2016. In Mexico, we month, we'll be building houses with Amore Ministries. It's a trip that we have done before. It's something we are really excited about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you 2 videos from that organization, Amore Ministries. At the same time, we're going to be handing out these critical Caravan information packets. So each student needs one of these. If you're a wise student, you have dragged your mother to this event and you can hand it directly to her. But we need each student to either have one themselves or give their mother or guardian one of these packets. So we'll be doing that during these 2 films. And at the same time, we'll be passing along a register for you to sign in and prove that you were here, since this is a mandatory meeting. So we're going to be doing 3 things at once: watching these 2 films, handing out these packets, and signing in. So let's do it. Here we go.
More than 30 years ago, a need was recognized which still exists today. Families being torn apart by poverty. When Amore Ministries was founded in 1980, the poorest families often sent their children away to orphanages simply because they could not provide for them. Rather than being full of true orphans, these homes were filled with kids whose parents chose to send them away to better care for their general needs. After learning this, Amore's founders decided to address the problem at its source, to assist with the basic needs of families. So for the last 30 years, Amore Ministries' mission has been to keep families together by providing adequate housing for the poor. The Amore House makes life easier for a family in need and is used to impact the greater church, and more specifically, the work of the local church as we join together in labor to demonstrate the grace and love of Jesus by providing security, safety, and stability. The ministry continues to live out Scott and Gayla Congdon's initial calling and provides homes for families daily. The Congdons, along with the Amore team, carry out their commitment and passion to help the poorest of the poor in Mexico, as well as South Africa and the United States. Amore mobilizes missionary volunteers to work with local churches to respond to physical and spiritual poverty worldwide.
Though the call in our lives was separate and personal, God brought Gayla and me together through a joint vision to address the deep poverty in Mexico. In our 30 years of ministry, this need hasn't changed and continues to be our deep and abiding passion. The only thing that has changed in 30 years is that poverty worldwide has grown, and in turn, God has expanded Amore's vision to address this. Our goal is to continue to impact the future of the church.
In Mexico, the national unemployment rates are close to 40%. That's almost half of the 107 million people living in the country. 70% of the population resides in urban areas, and over 4.5 million Mexicans live in substandard housing. The minimum wage in Mexico is set at 40 pesos per day, the equivalent of $4 US. By providing 4 walls, a roof, and a locking front door, Amore Ministries offers much more than a secure home to families in need. Addressing a family's most essential necessity provides the chance to improve their physical and spiritual conditions and offers the local church a solid outreach opportunity. The San Carlos Apache Nation is the 3rd largest reservation in the state of Arizona, with a shocking unemployment rate of more than 75%. The median annual household income is approximately $14,000. The reservation boasts a population of 16,000 people, half of whom are under the age of 18. Approximately 77% of the Apache people live below the poverty line, right here in the United States. Amore seeks to alleviate the tangible needs of the poor and share the love of Jesus with families by providing homes to the 16,000 families who live without them on the Apache Reservation. In South Africa, extreme poverty within the rural areas continues to drive people to the cities in search of employment. As a result, 57% of the 58 million people in the country live in overcrowded urban areas. What's more, the HIV/AIDS pandemic has infected 4.2 million South Africans, which is adding to these development issues. By answering God's call, you can partner with Amore Ministries in South Africa and help Amore to reach our goal to build approximately 20 homes a year, as well as construct AIDS hospice centers for families suffering from AIDS.
last 30 years, our ministry has focused its efforts on sending missionaries to serve and impact the needs of the poor, primarily in Mexico. When someone comes on a trip with us, I like to tell them that you're a missionary on a mission trip doing mission work. In this ever-changing world, our paradigm has needed to make a shift. The first way that we've done that is by expanding where we serve, which now includes South Africa and the United States. The other way is that we recognize that we have been a sending organization, and yet, if we are going to raise up a new generation of missionaries, we have to be committed to sending and equipping as well. I'm always humbled by the words of Jesus that were written in the book of John, that we will do greater things than he has done.
We see those that serve with us fall into two categories. Missionaries here in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and those individuals living and serving in the countries where we work. It is because of our deep commitment to the local church that Amor is now entering into a new phase where those we serve can now become the helpers and build within their own communities. Whether you are working in your own local community, providing elder care, or building a hospice for an impoverished community abroad, we are working together to create a global, united church that is willing to reach the poor, the lost, and hurting for Christ.
In Ephesians 1:23 from the Message, it says that the church is not peripheral to the world, but the world is peripheral to the church. See, the church is this living, breathing organism that God created and through which he speaks and which he acts. We are that living, breathing organism. We are the church. We're the body of Christ. Yes, it's about our relationship with God, and yet it's also about our relationship with each other. You see, this relationship between us and God and the relationship with the body of Christ have to work in tandem together. And so as we carve out the future of Amor, we want you to be a part of that because you are the difference. Together, you and me, we are Amor Ministries, sending and equipping missionaries to fulfill our mission of eradicating spiritual and physical poverty and building the future of the church.
Yo le pedía mucho a Dios que le moviera el corazón a las buenas personas, porque me encuentro enfermo. Tengo primero me comenzó el diabetes y él me siguió el herpes. Y luego me continuó el polio y luego me operaron de la vesícula biliar. Entonces no tengo entrada de dinero, no puedo trabajar. Un hombre y dos mujeres. Mis hijas no hay trabajo, no me dan nada, no quieren trabajar. Yo con todo mi corazón yo quería que trabajara, porque es el soporte para vivir uno. Mi hija se fue porque se mojaba aquí. Tiene muchas cosas de ella aquí. Que mi viñeta, tengo una viñeta, y se la llevaron, de aquí se la llevaron a Colima, allá caliente, y aquí frío, está mala del pecho, y por eso está allá ella, cuidándola, porque no quiere que salga para afuera. mucho beneficio en que sencillamente no me voy a mojar, no me va a calar el sol. Muy buenas personas, todos, muy buen corazón. Dios se los sabe premiar.
It is my belief that this act is God's love for you. God bless you for the rest of your life.
Dios le bendiga por el resto de su vida.
Igualmente a todos, que Dios los cuide también. Todos, todos. Gracias.
God take care of everybody.
Awesome. Those are compelling and beautiful videos. The first one depicted the global scope of what Amor does, that they are always seeking out populations that are underrepresented, without power, without a voice, and without homes. And then the second video featured the more specific thing that we'll be doing, and it featured one of the really powerful moments of this trip. Once we have, as you saw, constructed these homes, these simple homes by hand, there's this really powerful ceremony where the group that built the home got to pass it on to the owner. This key ceremony. So that's what the second video was about. Really fascinating, really beautiful, really powerful stuff. Does everyone who needs one have a Caravan information packet? And a pen? If you need a pen, we've got one. There. You might need a packet or a pen right there. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, I'm really proud of the way that the destinations for Caravan are selected. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. There's a committee that we have assembled of students and parents and advisors and staff that we call the Caravan Action Committee. Every year the Caravan Action Committee plans discernment meetings where we pray about the location and themes of Caravan, and this year they've selected this place. And I just think that that is a really powerful way of listening together to what God is doing in our community. But as we planned this trip with the Caravan Action Committee, the first thing that they thought of is, you know, some people are going to be concerned about the safety of their beloved children sending them on this trip. And so as we researched, as we prayed about this, we became nothing but confident that this is an extremely safe trip. But I wanted to begin our informational meeting by addressing some of the safety concerns that no doubt cropped up for some of you. As we studied it, we realized that this was already by its nature a really safe trip, but because of the really great planning and organization by Amor Ministries, they've taken what was already a really safe trip and made it really unquestionably safe. And so we're gonna take a look at some of the things in here. But if you are lucky enough to have brought a mom or guardian, and you can hand this to them now is the time, my friends. So we're going to talk about one specific part of this packet, and then we're going to put it all away for a minute and listen to some students who've gone on this trip before. But first I want to talk about this thing right here. It has the Amor symbol at the top, and it says safety information. I want to start by talking about this guy right here. So as we were discerning the location of this trip, as we were ascertaining the safety of this specific trip, we wanted to do a couple of different things. One, we wanted to talk really at length with the organization itself, and two, we wanted to talk to other people that don't go to this church, but that have been on this trip a lot. And so I was able to contact some churches in our area. Los Gato Presbyterian Church is one of them. They go on this trip every year, so I was really able to pick their brain about the details and especially the safety. And I wanted to share some of what I learned about the safety of this trip right up front. So from talking to Amor and from talking to the lovely people over at Los Gatos Presbyterian Church, here are the things I've learned. But first, this thing right here is this is what Amor publishes about their safety. As I talked to Amor on the phone, they told me, you know, Matt, we know that if anything ever happened on one of our trips, no one would ever come back. And so we take safety to the next level. That's what they told me. We want to take things and make them unquestionably safe so that, our steady flow of people that come annually and have been coming for 30 years can keep coming, that everyone feels safe, no one feels anxious about it. We want them to be able to come and enjoy themselves. So they have a really serious commitment to safety. They've been doing it for 30 years. Here's what they told me. They said, our main strategy is to develop great relationships with the local churches, the communities that we're in, and the local government. That way they know if there was ever anything violent going to happen, they would know months in advance. So Los Gatos Presbyterian Church, they went and they continued to go in the heart of the cartel violence a couple of years ago. And they knew that Amor would keep them out of any communities that were going to be in trouble. And so that's what happened. They have this really big commitment to knowing, to having ears on the ground and knowing everything that's going to happen well in advance. So the first thing that they do is they have really great relationships with the local communities, but especially the police and state government. So they're really well connected there. And in the United States, maybe it feels like, that's not that great or not that important. But in many other countries, having a good relationship with the police is what enables them to come and help you when you're in trouble. In some countries, not everyone gets help from the government or police, and so Amor has been cultivating for 3 decades this relationship so that they know that they can keep their people safe. So this really great relationship. The second thing that they do is they pay careful attention to the State Department reports for their specific region. Those are really specific reports from federal operatives on the ground listening to what's happening. And currently the State Department report says this: don't go out after dark, because the only danger you can really find yourself in is in crimes of opportunity or convenience. And so Amor works really hard to make sure there's never a convenient time to have access to the groups that come in. So a couple of ways that they do that is they ensure that the groups are always supervised, that they're always in before dark, that they always are accompanied when they're traveling, and that the property that we'll be staying on is always patrolled, it's always guarded, no one has access to it. So it's really secure, it's really safe. And there's a couple of other things that I think are just really interesting sort of personal testimonies. I talked to the guy who has my job at Los Gatos Presbyterian Church, and he said they go on this trip every year, and he says, Matt, we have so many parents who were anxious about sending their student on this trip, but after their student came back, they dragged their parents the next year. In fact, now they have an intergenerational trip that they do every summer where anybody from all ages is invited. So the kids and really wise old people from their church, everybody goes on this trip. And they said, we've never felt unsafe there, but it is outside of our comfort zone. And that's really what is compelling about this trip. We were there, we did this trip. All the seniors that are in Clue right now got an opportunity to go on this trip as freshmen. And so Sunnyvale has really good experience with Amor going on this specific trip. We observed with our own eyes how safe it was, how awesome it was. And I think that our students all reported the same thing, that it's not unsafe, but it is outside of our comfort zone. And that's part of what is so transformative and compelling about a trip like this. That it gets us way outside of anything we would normally experience in this country. It helps us to observe things we would never see here, so that we can listen in different ways to human needs and to what the Holy Spirit is doing in us. So, as we think about safety, there's a couple of things that I want to offer to you. One is the lovely people at Los Gatos Presbyterian Church said that they would be happy to answer any questions from anyone. They have a ton of experience. They've been going twice a year for 5 years, and they've been going every year at least once for 15 years, this exact trip. So they are really happy. I can put you in contact with anyone over there who would like to answer your questions. Equally, they are going at the same time that we are going, so we will have some buddies there who always know what they're doing. And then lastly, we went on this trip, as I said. It was my first Caravan. It was actually my 3rd day of working here. I got in the van, and I drove to Mexico, and as I got in, I said, "Where are we going again?" "Okay, cool, let's go." And it was a really wonderful experience. And so we have many of our beloved advisors who have been on this trip before and can testify to both the challenges, the way that it's transformative to be way outside of your comfort zone, but at the same time how safe and really well organized it is. Everyone's come away from working with Amor saying, of all the Caravan trips, this is probably the group that is the most organized, the most thoughtful. So, Jenny Warham is one of the advisors who has been before. She was on this Caravan Action Committee, and she'd be happy to answer any of your questions, really about anything, but especially the safety, the organization, that type of thing. Debbie Stoddard, who was unable to be here tonight, but is also on this list of people that would love to field any and all of your questions, in addition to talking to me, of course. And then, like I said, there are people over in Los Gatos who are bringing their whole family on this trip every summer, so we can put you into contact with some of them too. As I've been saying, man, really just one of the compelling and transformative aspects of this is being way outside of your comfort zone. And so I wanted to invite a couple of students who went as freshmen, their very first caravan was this trip, to come up and talk to you about it a little bit. So I'd like to invite your friend of mine, Laura Sire, up here to come and tell us about her experience. Take it away, Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura, and I'm a senior. This is my 5th and final caravan, and I'm super excited because, like Matt said, my first caravan was also to Mexico. And my first caravan, I was like really nervous because I hadn't been going to church that much, and I didn't know a lot of people. And so like a few weeks before, I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm really not sure I want to go. But I stuck with my original decision, and I went, and I have to say that was one of the best decisions I made, because on that trip I made so many new friends. I felt like I really had a place in this church, and we like just had so much fun. Built 3 houses, 3, right? And so I just really want to encourage all of you guys who are on the fence about this. Like, it's a really great opportunity to get involved in the church and meet new people. And so if you're wondering whether you should go or not, I really encourage you to take that leap of faith.
Thank you, Laura. So as I was getting to know everyone on that trip, I was learning everyone's name, and I rotated between the 3 work sites, and I kept hearing rumors and observing with my own eyes that the incoming 8th, then 9th grade girls worked harder than anyone. They worked harder than anyone on that trip. And Laura was one of them. She worked the hardest, I personally thought. And I was like, who are these people that work this hard? So appreciated that, learned a lot about Laura's industry, good hard work. Also on that trip was Mark Tridle. Again, your friend and mine, so I'd like to invite him up to give a few observations about this trip.
Hi, I'm Mark Tridle, as Matt said, and this was my first caravan as well. I'm not sure if I was on the fence. I think I was sort of leaning and I didn't want to go. I was not really into church at the time, and I basically told my mom, Mom, I don't like these people. I don't want to do this. Why would I do this? So my mom made the deal that I could go on this one, and then I didn't have to go on any others if I didn't want to. Which I'm really, really glad she did, because it was truly a life-transforming trip. You know, a lot of caravans are life-transforming, but I think there is something different to going to another country where you can't pop out to CVS to get ice cream or something. And I started out not really liking a lot of the people. You're all good people, that was my fault. I didn't really know anyone. I was scared. And like the first day we were in Mexico, I actually ended up sitting like at this rock at the edge of the area we were allowed to be in, the compound, I guess. And about 10 advisors came over and asked, Mark, are you okay? I said, yes, go away. I told myself, Mark, you are not crying on your first day of caravan. That is totally uncool. Then we had the sermon, and then we had family groups, and I cried my freaking eyes out. Which I was not used to doing. And then my family group, the groups who were with on caravan, you get to know them really well, especially in another country like that. It's really weird. They were all comforting and loving, and some of them started crying too, and we're all talking about things that really hit us in the heart. And I can honestly say that was the first time I saw Christian love as something that happens in the world, as opposed to a set of words you hear a lot in Sunday school class. And my mom asked when I got back, Mark, did you find God? And I was really enthusiastic, and I had so much to say that I had about 2 seconds before I had to get up on stage or something. So I just said, yes. So for anyone who is on the fence, or who doesn't want to go because they don't like anyone here, I fully encourage you to go.
Awesome. Yes, so, there are just countless stories about ways that God has worked in people's hearts in unexpected and powerful ways. And I love those stories especially. We hear that a lot. I don't know what we do before the trip, but a lot of people say, I did not want to go, and then I went, and I loved it, right? So that's awesome. I meant to mention this. We want to take the safety to the next level. We made a couple of additional commitments. One is every advisor will have a cell phone that's going to work in Mexico. That's not true for previous trips. That's not true for a lot of these trips. And then every group will have Spanish speakers so that there's a lot of different translators. And then if you're curious, we only eat food provided by the organization. We'll only drink filtered water. We won't have any of those types of issues. So we're trying to take the safety to the next level so that people can come and have these transformative types of experiences, falling in love with each other and falling in love with Jesus as we serve. Great. So let's get to the awesome details about this trip. Before we begin wading through the copious amounts of information here, I would like to introduce a very critical member of our youth ministry staff here, and that is our administrative assistant, brilliant General Juliana Latin. Now, hopefully you have seen her name somewhere in the Sunday Bulletin or on an email. Maybe you've gotten an email or a text message from her at some point, but it's just such a blessing to work with her. And so if you haven't met her, I encourage you to do that this evening. She has helped keep this thing organized and take some of our organization to the next level. Really appreciate that. Great, so put on whatever headwear helps you remember critical information, and let's delve into all the important stuff here. First of all, we've got the save the date for Caravan 2017. It's in July next year. We really like this July date, and we're going to try and stick with it. Helps us avoid July 4th. This year, we didn't go on Caravan in July because the Triannual Presbyterian Youth Convention is this week in 2016. But a normal years, we want to stick with this date. So July 2017. For those of you who are already planning your family vacations in 2017, impressive. We're very impressed. Very impressed. This bit of information right here, this is sort of the homepage of all the information for Caravan. It says at the top, Caravan 2016 Mexico. It gives the dates. And so we're going to take a look at this for a little bit. We're going to walk through it together. And in order to do that, I've got this microphone stand right here. Great. So it begins by describing what Caravan is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but you saw already the heart and spirit of Caravan is that students meeting God in new ways. You heard about it already from Mark and Laura. Here we've got the cost, and the cost for this trip is $800. Of course, we have scholarship available. And if you pay by April 10th, it's $800, and then after that, it slowly goes up. This includes all the transportation, nearly all the food, the gas, paying for the advisors to go at little to no cost. Overall, a great trip. If you have questions about any of this, especially the scholarships, feel free to email us. I feel blessed every year to dole out a lot of scholarships. It's a blessing to work in a church where that is a possibility. Let's go on to this next page. We've organized this in checklist form right here. All of the dates where things are due, or payments are due, or paperwork. And so April 10th is the first mandatory student and advisor Caravan meeting. That'll be a big date to turn in a lot of this stuff. And then you'll see that by June 5th, we want to collect all of the passports. One of the things that we'll go through in here is a document that Juliana prepared, walking you through, holding your hand through getting that passport if you don't already have one. Lastly, on this page, you'll see the trip itinerary. We'll depart early Sunday morning of the 19th, and we'll return to intersections on June 26th. On the back of this little pamphlet right here, is sort of all the calendar dates that are important, and I just want to hit a few of the highlights. One, of course, all the Caravan meetings, April 10th, May 8th, and June 5th. There we'll be getting to know everyone so that we already know everybody's name once we go on the trip. But we'll also be getting critical training on how to construct those homes, how to interact effectively with people from different culture. But also, we're having an experiment this year. You'll see it down here nearer the bottom, that instead of the following Sunday being Caravan Sunday is 2 weeks away from when we return. We're doing that because that Sunday is July 4th or July 4th weekend, and it has just seemed too difficult for families to have to plan around that, and then they were trying to go to Tahoe and explode stuff on Saturday night and then get back by Sunday. It was just never going to work. So as an experiment this time, we've postponed Caravan Sunday for 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. But I just want to put that on your radar now, that mandatory reporting back to the church about the awesome experiences we had is going to be 2 weeks after we return. Important stuff. Awesome. Now to the goodies on the inside of this little pamphlet. So one of the important things about Caravan is that it isn't just about a work trip. It's a trip that requires a prepared heart. And so we have put together this sort of regime of volunteer hours and other preparatory hours so that everyone who goes on the trip can have this fertile and open heart ready to hear what God is saying. And so we ask people to prepare their hearts in 3 different ways. Opportunities to serve, to build community, and to grow spiritually. So each student will be asked to accrue a certain amount of hours in those 3 categories. So we have here kind of the big rules, the top 4 rules right here. For accruing Caravan hours, they're mandatory. Every student who goes on this needs to do all of these. On this goldenrod colored sheet right here. Goldenrod. Did you know that, Francesca? Good, you learned something. Great. The 4 rules are: Caravan hours are mandatory. Accruing hours starts on Christmas Eve, so if you volunteered here in any way, or all the clues that you went to already count, so many of you have probably already met the requirements for these things. You can only get a maximum of 50% of the category from one activity, so you can't get them all from doing one big event. And then rule number 4, small groups are flexible hours. They count both as community and spirituality so that you can accrue your hours with less stress. The goal here is for students to have hearts that are prepared rather than moms who are stressed out. So we try and make this as easy as possible to be organized with. We want to tell you way in advance and give you a big window to gather these things. But we also hope that you'll be intentional, that all the students will be intentional about doing these things prayerfully and with an open heart. So that's our hope there. As students are accruing their hours, we hope that they will catalog them on this important lighter yellow sheet. I think this is linen or possibly canary colored. So here you'll put, each student will put what they did and then the date, and then they'll have an adult who was involved in some way with that sign off on it. Now we're hoping that a lot of the volunteering hours, the opportunities to serve will be done here on Sunnyvale campus, but if it benefits the community, then that's great too. You'll just need to get those types of volunteer hours approved by me or Kurt in advance. And then lastly, you'll see here at the bottom that if you were at Intersections, you heard Scott Peterson talking about 30-hour famine, which is a 30-hour fast that we do to raise money. If you participate in that, if your student participates in that, that will count as a full third of all of your hours. So if you're worried about getting your hours, that's a great place to get a big chunk of them all at once. Awesome. So any questions overall about accruing your hours or any of the calendaring things so far? Yes, Shay.
Just to clarify on the sheet, when it says small groups are 1.5 hours, is that 1.5 hours each time you go or 1.5 hours for all?
Yeah, each time you go, right? So we've designed this in such a way that if you're already relatively involved in the youth ministry, it should be pretty straightforward how to accrue these. In fact, you might already have them finished. Good question. Any others? Yeah.
Unrelated to the time commitments.
Yeah.
Where in Mexico are they going?
Great question. Great question. So, kind of the headquarters is about 30 minutes south of Tijuana. And as you drive, they've designed a route to where we never have to actually enter Tijuana. And we'll stay on the periphery. All the groups stay in one area about south of there, and then during the day to work, they drive out as far as 30 minutes away from that central camp to build these homes, sort of in the more rural areas. So the camp itself is pretty rural, and then the place where we're building, the neighborhoods where we're building are also pretty rural. That's a great question. Awesome. So, caravan hours, calendar stuff, all done. Let's continue. Of course, if you have questions, I'll pause a few more times for them, and then at the end, we're going to have a general plenary session of question and answer. So when you turn in your deposit check, you'll also need to turn in this form here, which just pledges that along with your deposit, you plan on going, you intend to fulfill all the commitments, and you understand what you've signed up for. So this is an important one. This one here is from the organization Amor, and it's similar, that you understand what you've signed up for, you intend to go. It also asks your t-shirt size, so that's a critical bit of information. And then it's a release of liability and consent. Now, you might notice that we don't have in here a medical form. Hopefully, if your student is already involved in the ministry, we already have all your health insurance and critical allergy information, that type of thing. If you haven't turned that in or updated it this year, you'll need to do that, and Juliana will make sure that you've got your current information. She'll be bugging you. In addition to that, if you plan to send some medication on the trip with your student, you'll need to fill this one out and explain what the dosages are, when they should take them, what it's for, that type of thing. And that way we can keep it really well organized and everyone taking their important medications. This one is a just critical bit of paperwork. This trip really wouldn't be possible without the volunteer times of a parent from each family. There are many moving parts to a trip like this. There are lots of absolutely critical but smaller jobs that are done by volunteer moms. And so I just can't say thank you enough to everybody who's helped with this trip before. This is the way we organize that. We're asking a parent from each family to sign up for 3 things. That doesn't mean you have to do all 3, but it's sort of like, I'd be willing to do that. And so we're asking you to sign up for these 3 things. 3 of the things on this list. And if you have questions about it, of course you can ask, but we're asking every family to contribute some volunteer time to help those all-important details run smoothly. Great. This is the handy guide to getting a passport for someone of any age. Juliana has sifted through the absolute avalanche of federal documents trying to figure out how to do this, and we've summarized it in a handy guide. Just want to walk through a couple things really quick. The 2 big websites that you'll need are right here at the top, and then there's a timeline for when the deadlines are for like normal shipping on it or expedited shipping in relationship to when we want to collect all of them. So there's a timeline right here. I want to encourage, if you are serious about going on this trip, that you put in your deposit tonight and then go home and fill out the passport form. You could be done in like a half an hour with the hardest part of this trip. So I encourage you guys to do that because the normal process for a passport takes about 6 weeks. So if you started that late, you're going to either end up paying a lot to get it shipped faster, or we're going to be in trouble for not having your passport in time. So March 28th is actually the last day that you can sign up for the normal cost of having your passport shipped. So I recommend doing that tonight when you get home. Great, so then a couple of other important things. If you're a first-time applicant under 16, here's the section for you. That one's a little bit more complicated because it requires both parents to be present in the process at some point. If you are 16 and up, that's on the following page. And then there's a list of documents that you'll need for the process. So hopefully this should be pretty simple getting you through. Here on this page, it has the address of all the local offices on the peninsula where you'll need to visit at some point. And then in the event of a total failure in family organization, which no one will judge you for, here's the information on how to get an expedited passport. Maybe, like Mark, you'll be on the fence and you'll realize only last minute that you do in fact want to go on this trip. Here's the expedited passport information right there on that page. Let's say you're one of those families that are jet-setting international travelers and you've got your children's passports at the ripe age of 7, but now they need new ones. Renewal for your passports are on this page. And finally, all the fees that are involved with all of these different processes are on this page here. So we've tried to prepare and ease the pain of interfacing with the federal government so that you can get your passport easily and swiftly. Lastly, right here, is a packing list, everything you'll need. So part of the trip is going to require a day of travel on the front end and then a day of travel on the back end. So part of the planning and packing procedure will be packing a day pack with everything you're going to need for a 24-hour period. Those instructions are on the back. Everything else for your big bag goes on the front, is on the front here. In general, there's only a couple of things that we'll be doing on this trip. We'll be traveling, we'll be hanging out at our campsite, or we will be working. And so maybe if you've been on this trip before or you saw what the people were wearing, pants are required, but they can be scrubs or something lighter weight. It will be hot. And then everyone will be required to bring work gloves and a sun hat. And we're going to be taking those types of everyday safety issues really seriously because, man, is it a bummer to get a blister on day one or a sunburn on day one. Don't want to do that. So we'll be preparing really for those 3 things. Traveling, hanging out at the camp or at the work site, working hard, and then the fun day, of course. If you bring everything on this list, you will be prepared for our top secret fun day, only to be revealed shortly before the fun day itself. So that's how that's working. Lastly, things to not bring. Things to not bring. Perhaps you already planned to not bring these things, but alcohol, firearms, anything illegal at school, don't bring them. No cell phones. We have experimented with bringing cell phones, and it was, in the words of one advisor, just a disaster. So, we're not bringing cell phones, but as we've said, every student will be with an advisor at all times. Every advisor will have a cell phone that works. So you'll be able to have access to your kid in the event of any type of emergency back home, or you'll be the first to know if there's any type of emergency in Mexico. Everyone will have access to a cell phone should be needed. That's the packing list. All right. Any questions about this mammoth bit of info? Yes, Jalen.
So the 16 under over 60, like thingy?
Yeah.
Is that 16 and over by the time the trip happens, or 16 and over right now?
That is a really great question. I think just to be safe, we're going to go with right now. If you are familiar with the passport process, they judge the important dates 6 months out. So that's kind of what we're going to go with there. So if 6 months before the trip, that's your age range, that's the one you want to be in. So right now. Good question. Yeah, Chris.
Can you mention the part about even if it's unexpired at the time of travel, it can't be...
Yes,
expired?
exactly. Yeah, that's important when you use this microphone. Great. What Chris is talking about, Chris was sort of the pilot of this Caravan Action Committee, so thank you for all of your hard work. And what we learned... An interesting thing that we learned in this trip is that if you have a passport and it's going to expire within 6 months after the trip, they still may not let you cross the border. So even if your passport is going to last until December of this year, you still need to get a new passport to renew it. Here's why they think in all countries that you could just stay there until your passport expires and then you're stuck there. So that's not going to work. So it's important, there's sort of this 6-month window that even if you're within the range of your passport expiring or the appropriate age, that they're still going to withhold you in some way. So we just want it to run really smoothly, and we're going to follow that 6-month window. So if your passport's going to expire, or if you're going to be underage within 6 months after or before, then we're just going to go with the more restrictive way of applying for these things. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Yeah, Joan.
I just encourage parents and students who are 16 or under 16 to get the appointment with the passport office as soon as possible. That's the toughest part of the whole process, as I recall.
Yep.
It can take a long time to get the appointment, so go where you have to go and do what you have to do.
Awesome.
Start working on that tomorrow.
Yeah, good veteran advice. Yeah, good stuff. One of the complicated things about the process for the 16 and under crowd is that both parents have to be present in the office. So you got to do that by appointment. Yeah, good. Peggy.
I may be speaking out of turn because I was actually already looking into this for something else. I think if one parent cannot be there, you can get a notarized signature.
That's right. There are workarounds that are on the list in the document we provided, but that is one thing. Yeah. Awesome. Other questions? Yeah.
Do they need to get any sort of shots in preparation?
Nope. Yeah. That's one of the great things about this location. It's in our climate, in our part of the world, so all disease type of things, we already have all the shots for it.
Do you have a limit on the number of people you're taking?
Yeah, great question. We do not have a limit on the number of people we are taking, but we are we're aiming to build 4 houses. That's our big goal. We want to build 4 houses. So that's going to require us to bring around 80 people. So that's really what we're aiming for. And then, as Mark alluded to, one of the important things of the whole trip is family groups. So we try to bring 1 adult for every 5 to 7 kids. So that's maybe 65 kids, 20 adults, something like that. Good question. Yeah.
So are they going to be working as family groups, or are you going to mix them with other kids from other churches?
That's a really great question. We're only going to be working with kids from our church, but a work team is 3 to 4 family groups. So maybe 20 people that are family groups that they'll be working together for every day. Yeah, good question. Any other questions about the trip in general, or any of the information, or anything like that? Yeah, Nikki.
Where would we be stopping?
Where will we be stopping?
The first.
Oh, to sleep the first night. Yeah, great question. So the travel agenda is we leave early that morning. We stop in San Diego. We stay the night in San Diego. That's the first Sunday of the trip. Then early Monday morning, we meet with the representative of Amor, and they shepherd us across the border. And so that we'll be in Mexico, ready to get to work Monday afternoon. So that's the plan. Yeah.
Can you tell us how long the drive, approximately how many hours?
Yeah, great question. It's about 8 hours between here and San Diego, but we try to break that up. We'll stop for lunch and some other things. And then from San Diego, crossing the border, just the distance itself is maybe around 2 hours. But then, you know, with crossing the border, only God knows. Yeah, good question. Other question? I saw another hand. Yeah.
I just wanted to know if there's any tents again.
Yes, we will be sleeping in tents again. We already have arranged with another church who goes on a similar trip. They have awesome, like industrial grade tents they're willing to loan us. So last time we asked people to temporarily donate their tents to us, and some of the tents were great, and some of them had not been used recently. And so, even though they were all functional, they were of different sizes. We'll just be in much better shape this time. But yeah, we'll be staying in tents in the campsite. Yeah, good question. Good question. So yeah, on the packing list, you'll need to bring everything you'd want to sleep in a tent: the sleeping bag, sleeping mat, that type of thing. Yeah.
What's the weather type like?
Yeah, great question. It's very arid. It's a very dry climate. It'll be low 90s in the day, and then a little bit chillier at night. So hot in the day, cold at night. Everyone will need to be ready to have a jacket. I saw some heads do this. Am I wrong? Okay, I'm right. I love when I'm right. Best part of the meeting. Yeah, so hot during the day, chillier at night. We'll be drinking a lot of water, and we'll be making sure everybody gets ample time in the shade. Yeah?
Will it be the rainy season? Or
No. It probably won't precipitate in any way at all there. So we're just really not worried about that. It would be unseasonal for there to be any rain. So yeah, summertime, similar to here. It's super dry in June here, so it'll be dry there too. Good question. Good question. Awesome. Any other questions? Either I've explained it all thoroughly, or you're tired of this. Those are the two options here. Could be both. Could be both. Awesome, great. Let's return briefly. Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah, totally. We can get you that. You can probably, I'll give you some GPS coordinates. You can find it on Google. We'll email out that information. That's a good question. Yeah. All right. Other questions about anything? Awesome, great. There's kind of a verse. There's a verse that we always talk about on Caravan. It comes from Matthew 25, where Jesus makes this sort of absurd promise that when you help people in need, there's a way in which you're really helping Jesus. And he says that if you saw the poor or the lonely, or if you saw the sick and you help them in any way, that you're making contact with Jesus himself. And that's the thing that we always find to be true on Caravan. There's a reason that when you spend a week serving other people, you have these profound experiences with God. It's because of this promise that Jesus made. As I was thinking about this passage, as we've been praying about Caravan, I learned that scholars argue that Jesus was probably thinking about this specific passage in Isaiah when he said that. And the passage in Isaiah says, if you saw the wandering without shelter and you gave them a home, then you've given me a home. And I couldn't help but be excited about this trip for that reason. That there's something about Caravan, there's something about this trip that is setting us up to meet God. And so I hope that all the organization and all the safety stuff just prepares your students to have a really profound trip. I hope that as you're preparing to go on this trip, as you're thinking about the logistics, you'll be praying about this trip, not only the way it will impact your family, but the way it will impact our church family here and the church families that we're going to meet in Mexico. All in all, I hope that this is a season, an annual season for our whole church community to be engaging with God in this new and fresh and urgent and exciting way. So as you go about all this stuff, as you're waiting in line in the passport office, as you're thinking about what clothes you want to bring, as you're preparing to finish school and to come to all the Caravan meetings, I hope that you do it prayerfully so that we can all be engaging with God. So let me pray for you here, and then we'll depart. If you have any paperwork or logistical questions, or if you have any checks that you would like to reserve a spot with, you can give them to Juliana Latman. If you have any questions for Jenny, she's right there, or myself, I'll be here answering questions. And I think that's it. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we simply want to know you and to walk with you. Lord, so we lift up to you all of our disinterest, Lord, all of the ways that we are unsure about you and about this trip. God, and we ask that you open our hearts, you open our ears and our eyes so that we can feel and hear and see what you're doing and where you're leading us, Lord Jesus. Show us how to make you more the Lord of our life. We love you, Lord. Teach us how to walk with you, how to serve those that you care about, how to hear your voice. We love you, Lord. We lift this whole thing up to you. Amen.